Hello, Greg.
Hello, Petra.
You?
I'm very good, thanks. And you?
I'm fine, thank you. Are you talking from the Drakensberg?
Yes.
Wonderful. How is this? Tell me a little bit about the school. Where is it? Is it located in the mountains?
I'm thinking I should take my laptop and walk outside, but we might lose the Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in the heart of the Drakensberg, in a World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
So the Drakensberg mountain range has been proclaimed a World Heritage Site, and our school is right at the foot of Cathkin Peak. It literally looks over our school.
Wonderful.
And quite beautiful. Yeah, peaks are sort of 10,000 feet high until you reach the plateau at the top. And we're going into winter now, so the mornings are starting to get a little chilly, but May is coming, which is probably the best time of the year in the Drakensberg. It's great for hiking. You know, the paths aren't too slippery, there's still enough water, but then it gets progressively colder till about, we can still get cold here in November.
Really?
But yeah, lovely days.
Beautiful.
You know, normally warm sunny days. Yeah. And yourself, you're not from South Africa?
I'm from South Africa. Yeah, I'm from South Africa.
Oh, where are you?
But I've never been in the Drakensberg. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up in South Africa?
I grew up in an industrial town called Vanderbijl Park. It's near Johannesburg. Do you know?
I know it. And yeah. And are you now living overseas? Are you in Europe now?
I'm living in Vienna. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is where I did this project. You know, photographing all the artists in their windows, and I actually photographed the Kapellmeister of the Vienna Boys Choir in his window as well. And yeah, it reminded, it made me think of the Drakensberg Boys Choir. And I thought it would be a lovely connection to have somebody, you know, to talk about this also there, and how that's affected you and the boys at the school. The whole lockdown situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 12 months.
How did it start for you? How did it start for you there? Was it also in March that you had your lockdown in 2020?
Yes, so I think we started sending the boys home, I think it was Monday the 16th of March. I'm not 100% sure any longer, but it was over 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Either parents came to fetch them or we arranged buses to get them home. And then we went into full lockdown. Now, this part of the Drakensberg is not densely populated. It's quite a rural area, but we weren't allowed off campus except to buy food. So a number of us ride mountain bikes, and, you know, some of my staff walk and hike and jog, and we weren't allowed off the campus, but the campus is 36 hectares. So we just made do with riding around campus and walking around campus, but it hardly felt like lockdown for us living here, because, you know, we just had this big campus to explore every day, and so the heavy COVID restrictions didn't affect us that much because we were isolated here.
But why did you have to send the boys home then? Was it because wouldn't it have been safer for them to be there and stay at the school?
Yes, I think it would have. But they'd been back since the 14th of January, so they'd already been at school 2 months, and we didn't know what the future held. And at the time of hard lockdown, the president put a restriction on interprovincial travel. So you couldn't travel from KwaZulu-Natal to Gauteng or to the Eastern Cape, or you could only remain in the province if you had to travel at all. And so to have kept them here for another month or two, and then, you know, now having to maybe send them home for a holiday or send them home for Easter would have been impossible. So we sent them home and then moved to online teaching.
Oh, okay. So you could do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not the same. And, you know, we live in the Drakensberg, so electrical storms and poor internet connectivity plague us here the whole time. So to try and Zoom call with every class at the same time every day was almost impossible. We just didn't have the internet capacity to do that. But we worked around it.
So how many boys do you have in the school there?
I've currently got 95 boys.
Okay.
And my carrying capacity is probably 120. But we have to go out and recruit boys every year. And we weren't able to get out last year because, you know, when schools did reopen, they didn't want anybody on their campus. And we didn't allow anybody on our campus. So we would always go and do a performance at a school and then audition boys after that to see if they were keen to join our school and to sing in the choir. And so one of the voice teachers would go and audition and we'd recruit boys that way. And we normally get between 25 and 35 boys a year. Coming into this year, I got 13 boys. So my enrollment was hard. So that was really tough for us, you know.
And then what age, so do the boys, do they matric there? So like the South African, or do they leave earlier?
Yeah, they leave earlier. They come in grade 4, which is our old standard 2.
Yeah.
So those boys turning 10, and they leave at the end of grade 9 when they're 15. And they do that simply because by the time a boy's 15, he's pretty much in the deeper voice ranges. You know, he might be singing as a bass or as a tenor. And so you get an imbalance in the voice groups in the choir because there are four voice groups. They're the trebles or the sopranos, the altos, the tenors, and the basses. And you've got to have an equal balance.
Yeah.
But the more older boys you've got, so we couldn't carry boys up to grade 10, 11, or 12 because then there'd be an imbalance in the voice groups.
Okay. And then for these boys that leave school now, when they last year, for example, they were supposed to leave them in December, or they finished then in November. So how was it for those boys to leave? Because I would think that the last year of the school would be some sort of a, you know, a finishing time for them, and then they go on to do a next school. So how was it for those boys then?
Well, it was different from previous years. But the range of schools that my boys choose is not great. They're schools that work for boys coming out of Drakies. And they're mainly the big boys schools in KZN and in Gauteng. And so we just worked with them online, and they did the interviews online. They wrote the entrance tests online. They did all their auditions if they were applying for a music scholarship at their new school. They did that. They sent a video or an audio file, and we did it that way. You know, I think what COVID has taught everybody to do is to mark a plan.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
South Africans are very good at marking a plan.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you know, it's these little things that we don't realize, and I think it's also, I speak to a lot of students, for example, who finish and then going on to the next part or then starting the career. But then I think of these boys, this was supposed to be their last year, but there wasn't much of a year left for them to finish then. Yeah.
No, there wasn't, because they left in March, middle of March, as I said, and they came back on the 1st of July. And then we weren't allowed to perform until the 6th of September. And I had to get special permission to deviate from the president's proclamation on performing. But because we fall under the education department, not the Department of Arts and Culture, the education department saw the school as a unique music school, and the boys had to perform their craft. It's like saying you can go back to school, but you can't do math.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so the director of education said, no, the Draki boys have to perform. So we were allowed to perform, and then we got permission to have an audience as well. So although it was only 50 people to start, we performed to 50 people until some end of September. And then October, November, December, he upped the number to 250. But I can put 600 people in my auditorium. So 250 people is still not much. But probably the biggest problem was, you know, the boys come here to sing and to perform and to tour. And we haven't toured in a year because you can't go anywhere. So performing is great. We can perform. But the touring is also a huge part of what a boy does here. You know, whether you tour nationally or internationally, they come here because they want to get on a bus or get on an aeroplane and go and sing somewhere. So that was the biggest challenge for us. You know, a lot of the big schools haven't been able to play rugby for a year, and they now starting to open up rugby again. But for us, boy, these kids struggled without being able to sing. We rehearsed every day, but we still waited 3 more months before we could perform to a live audience, you know.
So are they back now at school?
Yes.
Are they back?
Yeah, they came back on Monday. They've been off for Easter.
Yeah.
They got back to school on Monday. We had a concert already yesterday. And this is a long weekend in South Africa now until Tuesday. So we've got a whole creative arts festival happening this weekend and 4 concerts. So the boys are going to be busy.
But now this school, I would presume you get sponsorship, or is the school state funded?
No, we get no sponsorship and we get no funding from the state. Because we're an independent school, the state doesn't give us any allocation. We have some donors who provide funding for bursaries, you know, that for boys that can't afford to come to the school. But it's never enough because there are always boys that want to come who can't afford it. But we get no funding for infrastructure or staff salaries or a new fleet of buses or anything. We have to fund that ourselves.
I see. And now, isn't it the concerts that you do, is that also part of, say, how you get the funding so that, you know, you can use some concerts for benefits for, you know, for all the money that you make from the concerts? Are this what keeps the school also going?
Very much. So our 2 income streams are fees that the boys pay to be here. And as I said, not every boy can afford the fees. And then concert and tour income. Those are the 2 main revenue streams for us. We do have merchandise, but merchandise that brings in loose change, you know.
Yeah.
So we traditionally have had a concert every Wednesday afternoon. And we've done 1 overseas tour a year and a number of national tours to Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, Grahamstown Festival, whatever. Those have stopped. So that revenue has dried up completely. So we're currently doing 2 concerts a week, 1 on a Wednesday and 1 on a Friday, but to a limited audience because that's all we're allowed. And we used to draw a great many international visitors every week. But international visitors aren't coming at the moment.
No, yeah.
So it's to locals, you know, and so you don't really get the numbers that you would like to get. So our income is probably down by 80%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's shocking, really.
Yeah.
But now this school, because this is what I've been thinking about. And you know, in Europe, a lot of theaters are state funded. A lot of artists are getting support from the government. And it seems like countries like South Africa, for example, and the United States, you know, these artists, they really have it very tough at this time because of there's no state involvement in the funding. But I was thinking, and this is the reason why I wanted to speak to you as well, because I think the Drakensberg Boys Choir is such a wonderful opportunity for boys, you know, to have the chance to, because they get trained as well in singing. Yeah. But where, like you say, where do they go from there? What is there for them, for a boy that's done all this training and had this wonderful opportunity? Is there enough opportunities in South Africa for boys like that?
There certainly are when he moves on to his last 3 years of high school, because every one of my boys gets snapped up by the big schools, who also have choirs of their own and have drama departments and have dance departments, because my boys do dance and they do movement as well.
Okay.
Because a lot of our music is set to choreographed and staged performances. So they have to learn to dance, they have to learn to hip hop, to, you know, modern, all that kind of stuff they have to do as well. So they've got quite a unique skill set when they leave here, and they snapped up. I would say only about 30%, 20 or 30% of the boys who've come through my school go on to pursue a career in the music industry or in the entertainment industry. A number of them have become very popular performing artists, but they'll go into sound engineering, audio engineering, music production, dance, drama, and that sort of thing. But a great many of them go on to study law, medicine, or accountancy, or some, you know, become a teacher or something. But they've got that foundation, which they use. So we had an old boy visit us the other day who owns his own law firm in Durban, and he hadn't played his piano for 12 years, and he had grade 8 piano. So, I mean, you don't get a better qualification than that. And he got hold of us the next day and said to us, when I got home last night, I sat down at my piano for the first time in 12 years. This is what I played. And he sent us this audio file. It was magnificent. And the guy hadn't played for 12 years. And he said, I just got enthused again after hearing the choir and being back at the school, just to do what I was trained to do, you know. Now he will carry on playing the piano as a hobby or a pastime for the rest of his life, and perhaps never perform in a concert or a show ever. But he's got a quality of life that comes from the education he got here. You know, that means he can make music and he can play and, you know, bring joy to people.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think of it that way, isn't it, you know, some of those boys could have been professional musicians or professional singers? Do you think that could have been the possibility if, you know, there were something for them to go on to for the next, you know, for the next part of the education?
Yeah, very much. But you'll know, whenever a country's in crisis, the first budget they cut to arts.
Yeah.
You know, they don't stop defense spending, but they'll cut the arts, and I think that's just our lot as artists, you know. And it's a great pity, because these boys are immensely talented. They know how to sing when they leave here. They know how to read sheet music. They know the ins and outs of music theory. They know their instruments. They know how to dance. You know, they really are a very unique brand of boy. And if the uptake after school is only 20 or 30%, then it's a bit sad.
Yeah.
That fantastic grounding has not been nurtured further on to allow, you know. But then, and I suppose in the same breath, the boy comes here, enjoys the experience, but he still decides he wants to be a lawyer or a doctor, and you can't take that away from him.
No.
But one would think that there'd be a bigger uptake in tertiary education for our boys to go through and become part of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, I think because you find that in ballet schools also, sometimes they go into a ballet school, children go in a ballet school, and then they just decide, well, I don't want to go and do a career in ballet. But still, when you're in Europe, you have that choice. You don't have to make another career decision if you want to go into ballet. There are many other training facilities where you can train, and this is what I was talking to. I talked to a few tenors and even a dancer, ballet dancer who are South African, who talks about how they started in South Africa singing in choirs or doing the training, but then the work is not there. Then they have to come to Europe to be able to sing opera or to be in a ballet company, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of our old boys are in Europe in exactly those fields that you mentioned. Because I think it's hard for a musician to make a comfortable living in this country.
And that's sad, because I think there are many talented musicians and dancers and artists in South Africa.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now also something that I talk about is the like you say now, this education system, and that this privilege that these boys have there, that they basically do academic, they do dancing, yes, and they do singing and music, then play an instrument. So they're really all rounded there. So that's a school where they have math, science, languages, and art as subjects. And this is what I'm thinking of. This should really be in every school, art as a very important subject. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be wonderful singers or dancers, but that they just have the experience of, just have the possibility to express themselves through art. But the normal schools focus much more on, say, maths and science, and art is, like you say, the moment there's financial difficulties, it's the art subjects that are cancelled. And then, children have to go either after school, or it's just a one half an hour singing a week. And so you have the evidence there to say that the boys that leave there, they all make a success of whatever they do, whatever they decide to do.
Yes, very definitely, because it's a unique school in that it's a very long day. The boys, just before we came on air, the bell rang for them to go into rehearsal, and they'll rehearse till 6 tonight. They've already had an hour this morning. So it's 2.5 hours of rehearsal today. And so a boy has to be a good self-starter here. He has to have a lot of intrinsic motivation, and he has to be very disciplined. If he doesn't have that, he has to learn it quite quickly. But I was reading an article in this magazine. Bring it up close. It's the Independent Education magazine. And there's an article in it that in Australia, at university level, they are reducing the fees for students that want to do science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and they're increasing the fees for students that want to study humanities. So philosophy, history, literature, because they don't regard those as being suitable skills for the workplace. And I looked at that and I just thought, how crazy are these people? Because in an era where we're dealing with Black Lives Matter and woke consciousness and social justice, to take away the study of philosophy and history means you're not equipping people with the EQ to be able to function as citizens in a normal society. It astounds me that a country can do that. So I'm a strong advocate for the humanities. I'm a social science teacher myself. I teach history, geography, and literature. and I don't teach mathematics or science. So I hope there's a future for folk like me, you know,
Yeah.
because I might
But
take my subjects from school.
I think my math teacher was just so happy that I made my matric when I left school, because math was not my great subject.
Yeah, there are
But
people that can do math and those that can't.
yeah. But I'm okay. I survived, you know. But yeah, but this is exactly what you're saying. And, you know, I even heard of a school that focus or to enter this prestige school, you have to have high marks in maths. And you know, you think then some children are excluded because some children would have been so much better in an art, in some form of art, and that, you know, but also the proof that you are there with this school, you have many different cultures also in the school. So I presume, I mean, South Africa's got so many different cultures, and I think your school probably represents all of them.
Pretty
And
much, yeah.
yeah, and these boys can come together in a choir and sing and work together. And this already has to show, this has to be the proof, you know, that art bring people together.
Yes, without a doubt. When you see my choir on stage, you see the full spectrum of South African society, from the rich to the poor, from the black to the white, to the Indian, to the colored, and everything in between. Those boys are all on stage together.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that proves the point. Also in orchestras, you see that in ballet companies, you know, it's just a place where they just the acceptance of each other and tolerance of you know, differences, you know, that's definitely for me the proof of it. Yeah. So for a boy to get in the school, the audition process, is it solely on what you hear, the voice, was it a potential that could be, what is your criteria there?
So every boy that wants to join has to go through a voice audition. We believe that if it might sound strange, but we believe that if a boy can hear, he can sing, and we'll teach him to sing. There obviously has to be something there, but he doesn't have to come in pitch perfect or anything like that. We'll give him the necessary training he needs. And ironically, we have a boy with us who wears hearing aids, but he's got a great voice. So it kind of dispels that statement that if a boy can hear. When I say hear, it doesn't mean he can hear sounds. Can he listen? Perhaps more than hear. So we will audition the boy, and he'll sing to us, or he can send us a video or an audio clip. And then they write an entrance exam in English and mathematics. We look at that, not so much through eyes of whether he's a passer or a failure, but if there's help he's going to need, if he's struggling in one subject or both subjects, and if he needs help, do we have that resource available here to help him?
Okay, I see.
So it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
As long as we believe we can help him. And quite often boys who don't have English as a mother tongue need help. They need to bridge that gap. And it's just because the boy hasn't spoken English a lot. So once we can immerse him into the school where English is the spoken language, give him 6 months to a year and he's flying, you know. So that's probably it. But when the boy comes in, he goes through what we call training status. And so he has to learn. He's got about 25 tests that he has to pass. And the 25th test is when he sings a solo in front of the whole choir, which is probably the most terrifying thing he's ever going to do in his life. So he gets a couple of days to learn the song, and we help him choose a song. And then he he gets up on stage and he sings that in front of all his peers. And once he can do that, then he gets the concert uniform, which is the blue waistcoat and the jabber. He's inducted into the choir, and then he's a member of the choir.
That's so wonderful. Yeah.
Now, it's a very emotional ceremony.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And I can also imagine when they leave, it must be emotional for them to leave.
You know, many of our old boys regard this school as their alma mater, not the one they go on to, because it really creeps into your heart. It's a very unique little school. You know, it's tucked away in the mountains. It's miles from anywhere. You don't have malls or movie houses or anything to do except swim in the river, ride your bike, and go camping and hiking. That's about it. So they live a very outdoor type of life. But you know, that's South African boarding school boys. They tough kids. These, they might sing well, but in every other respect, they're as hard as nails. But,
yeah,
you know, they're really tough. It's a pretty Spartan existence here. You know, there's no air conditioning in the dormitories, and you know, sometimes the boiler doesn't boil the water, so the showers are cold. But it's back in time. And it's boarding house food, which is not always fantastic, you know. It's not more cooking.
But I spoke to Clint van der Linde, and he was there many moons ago, but he also had very fond memories, of the school.
It gets into your blood, and it gets under your skin, and and time kind of stands still here, you know. I had, over the holiday now, I had a gentleman come to see me who was headmaster here from 1989 to 1993. And he said to me, nothing's changed.
Really?
Yeah, he says, everything looks the same, you know. Well, I hope it's a little better than it was, but it's a very simple little farm school. There's nothing spectacular about the buildings. You know, the spectacular comes from the mountain that hovers over us. But yeah, it really is a very unique and wonderful place.
But now these concerts that you do there, so the people come from outside, is it far to travel from the nearest town, or
you know,
who are these people that come to the concerts?
That's a really good question. It's normally people who are holidaying in this valley, and the valley has it has an 8,000 bed capacity. So it's a very popular destination for South Africans, and it was popular with tourists when they could come into the country. But there are timeshare resorts and caravan parks and what have you here. So over weekends, the valley is very busy. And then you get folk who use their timeshare during the week who come. We've got a very good working relationship with all the businesses in the valley. We all work together. And so they'll help us out with, you know, preferential rates for accommodation for parents and that sort of thing. And in return, we advertise them, and so there's a great harmony in terms of how business works together here. And people come from all over the place.
And tell me, how old is this school?
We're in our 54th year this year.
Okay. And you see a future for the school? You see that it will carry on?
Yeah, I don't think South Africa can afford not to have the Drakensberg Boys Choir. I'd say the future is certain, because we will work at making sure there's a future. But it's a rocky road, you know. I mean, no concerts for 6 months, no touring, a massive loss in revenue, recruitment numbers down. It's been really tough, and we've had to do without a lot of things. I get the feeling that this year we've turned the corner and that things are starting to happen for us. People are starting to invite us to tour and to perform as they can have more people in their venues. So they want us to go there. And we've just got to reimagine how we're going to do business. But yeah, we'll keep going. Absolutely. Yeah.
And how is the contact with the choir and the country, the rest of the country? So do people, do you think that you probably have a marketing strategy to get people to know about the school, but you're touring and so on? Because I'm also thinking, and I don't know exactly how it works with you, but I'm sometimes thinking that if people understand the story behind what artists are doing, that they also connect better with artists. So is the school like this, where you don't just market it as an overall, it looks lovely in the mountains, but that that other boys could understand, wow, I'm going to get this lovely education, or I'm going to get this wonderful broad education? Or how do you connect really with to get the boys to the school, or to get the people to know about the school?
So that was done chiefly through tours and concerts prior to COVID.
Okay.
Since COVID's been in place, we looked first of all at our online presence, and we didn't have enough internet speed to do live streaming. It kept buffering and closing down, and the quality was poor. And so that's something that didn't work. But we've appointed this year a music producer who is an old boy of the school, and he's producing just the most wonderful recorded music. We've branched out into music videos, and put quite a lot of them out last year. I would say in a rather amateurish fashion, because it was something completely new and we didn't have anybody skilled enough at the school to do it. But we've got a video due for release in the next week, which is, I think it's absolutely spectacular. We've got a professional team and it got professionally edited. It sounds amazing. And hopefully we're going to be able to monetize that. So that whole strategy of ours is to put content out there that appeals to boys that are watching it, who will say, I want to go to that school.
Yeah.
When they get to the school, of course, it's not all pop music. There's classical, there's contemporary, there's African music, there's everything, the whole spectrum. So he doesn't just sing ABBA songs, for a year. He's got to learn to read music. He's got to learn to sing it, and all that stuff comes into the education. The concerts then will be a more eclectic mix of musical styles, because that's what people understand us to be able to do. If we call to do a classical concert, we can go and do it. If we call to do an Afro pop concert, we can do that too. So, excuse me, the boys can do anything. But the hook to get them, because we can't go out on the road and recruit boys, the intention is to get content out there that boys will look at and say, I want some of that.
Yeah, because that's what I think now is the time when because I also speak to artists about this connection between audience and artist. Because I see sometimes you look at the artist and it all looks so glamorous, you go to the concert house and it all looks so polished and wonderful, but you don't see the behind the scenes part, or you don't see the many hours of practice. And I wonder sometimes if artists can reveal a little bit more about that side, what it takes to put up the show, or what it takes to become the artist, that people connect, because it's almost that there's a story. And now that you're saying that some of the footage wasn't that, it was just done like that, it's also a great thing, because it makes it looks more, say, approachable,
I think any artist, whether irrespective of the artistic field that they operate in, will tell you that you live for the stage, or you live for your exhibition or your performance. But it's hours and hours and hours of hard graft behind the scenes. And we'll never fudge that and tell people it's not, because the reality is it's hard work. But I'm hearing what you're saying in terms of the kind of authenticity of the message. So this video that will come out hopefully in the next week will portray a boy learning a song to get on stage, and the kind of things he has to go through until he succeeds and he's on stage. Because unless the boys know, unless they've passed every song in our repertoire, they can't perform. So even if there's just one song he doesn't know, he misses out that concert. So there's a lot of pressure on them to learn the songs. And our boys don't stand with a musical script in hand. Everything comes straight out of the head. And invariably it's in any language but English. You know, it'll be in Latin or Greek or Hebrew or Spanish or you name it.
Yeah.
And he has to learn that. We do a song at the moment which is all in French. We do Wie lieblich, which comes from the Deutsches Requiem, which is German. Okay, so Handel's Messiah is being sung in English, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every song is in a different language, and the boy can't stand there and read it. He's got to learn it and pass it. So that hard work to get on stage, any artist will understand what that is all about. And I hope that the video portrays that to the boy that's watching. That you don't just arrive here and because you think you can sing, we're going to put you in the choir. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's
That's amazing that you've done that. Yeah, I think it's great. I would love to see that. Yeah, I would love to see that. Are you going to make it available on YouTube or something?
Yes. Yeah, I think it'll be out early next week. We're just tying up one or two things with the distribution agreement, and then yeah, hopefully it'll be out. And it's good. It's really good.
But listen, Greg, just on a lighter note, what did you do over the lockdown time? You said you were doing a lot of hiking and so on, but was there something you never had time to do that you did?
So I'm a musician myself.
Yeah.
And I was playing for a rock band in Durban before I moved here.
Yeah.
And then that kind of folded. The band split up, but we got together over lockdown, and we've produced probably a video a month that we were taking with our cell phones and doing our best to try and create some video.
Yeah.
Over a year, it's great to see how we started and where we are now. So lockdown gave me, look, I was still in the office every day because the school had to continue. But lockdown gave me an opportunity to spend more time on my instrument and to work at my cycling and, you know, just the kind of things that you don't normally get time to do. So that was
and have
great.
a braai.
We did lots of that. South Africans, we braai.
Yeah. Listen, and now just the last thing, what is your wish for when this is all over?
Boy, that's a good question. My wish is for the world to return to normality, but without the hatred, without the dog-eat-dog competition, without the disregard for other people that highlighted what we were. I think it's been quite sobering to be in lockdown for a year, and I hope that we become, as a people of the world, become more tolerant, more understanding, more empathetic of other people. That's what I hope for the world. For me personally, I just hope my school takes off, and just these boys flourish and blossom. People get to know about us. We can perform all over the world as we used to, and just get stronger and stronger. And that's all I want.
Well, that's very positive, that you expect that to happen. Do you ever come to Vienna? Where do you tour in Europe?
So that we toured in 2019 No, 2018, we did Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We performed a long time ago with the Vienna Boys Choir, but it was a long time ago. 2019, we were in London. We closed the Lion King there with the cast.
Okay. Yeah.
Last year, we were supposed to go to Taiwan, Singapore, and Italy. It didn't happen. And yeah, there's some things on the cards for this year, but I'd rather not say what they are until they're confirmed.
Okay. Well, I hope
whether those countries let us in, you know.
well, I hope at some point I see you in Vienna or in Austria again. Yeah, that would be lovely.
It would be wonderful to tour. Yeah. And thank you for approaching us to do. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your time and for talking to me. It's really very exciting for me that I can, and also, you know, to highlight a little bit about this in South Africa, because I'm trying to talk also about the situation of the arts in South Africa. I think it's also important that, you know, that every country, that we can see all the different countries and the situation of the arts in the different countries. Thank you very much, Greg. This was wonderful to talk to you. I was really looking forward to this conversation, and feel very honored that you took the time to talk to me.